networker is like a great interviewer.
I'm huge on authenticity, guys. It's a big part of my message.
Claim your local listings and don't get caught paying someone for your local listing.
If you want to be successful, you got to do 6 things 1,000 times, not 1,000 things 6 times.
And when in doubt, give to other people and don't expect anything in return. But in giving to other people and helping them, it almost always comes back.
It's using the power of partnership, creating trusted partner networks to work with you to make your company be an offer more than just you.
They've done 90% of the work. It's your job to do the last 10% to meet them in the middle.
Don't let the fear of losing be greater than the excitement of winning.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Ask Valor Masterminds podcast, brought to you by AidMat Septic Services and CR Gutters. My name is Galen.
And I'm Joe.
We're coming at you virtually from the BD local studios in Tacoma, Washington. So, Joe, for our new listeners and viewers tuning in, tell everyone how our podcast came to be, please.
Absolutely. So it first started out as a Facebook group page where we wanted to bring different businesses together to kind of communicate with one another, ask questions, get answers, kind of share some tips about business. And we thought, what a better way than just to create a podcast where we do that same thing, where we bring on different guest speakers to talk about different topics, all relating to business in some form or fashion.
Awesome. So today's guest is Dr. Jen Welter. So we're super excited to have you on. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely a pleasure, guys. And thank you for highlighting positive things. We need that now more than ever.
Awesome. So let me just give Dr. Jen a formal introduction. So Coach Jen Welter is best known as the first female coach in the NFL and an assistant linebacker coach with the Arizona Cardinals with Coach Arians, right? What people don't know is Coach Jen broke into men's professional football as the first female running back in men's pro football. From that experience with the Texas Revolution, Coach Jen started her coaching career as a linebacker coach of the Revolution. Following the NFL, Coach Jen became the head coach of the first Australian women's national team, filled in July 2017, joined the advisory board of the Pro Football Hall of Fame Game for Life Academy, and wrote her first book, Play Big, Lessons in Living Limitless from the first woman coach in the NFL. In 2018, she focused on the importance of being a female role model in sports. She founded the Gridiron Girls. Did I pronounce that right?
You did. Right. We put the girl in Gridiron because the girls weren't getting enough opportunities.
Awesome. Returning to men's professional football during the coach staff of the Atlanta Legends as a defensive specialist. Prior to joining the men's game, Coach Jen had an amazing career in women's football, which included 2 gold medals with Team USA. So it's an Olympic year, 4 world championships, 8 all-star selections. This is probably one of the most amazing things Joe and I noted. While playing football, Dr. Jen obtained her PhD in psychology and a master's in sports psychology. Dr. Jen also has a BS in business from Boston College. So Coach Jen's message has been widely acclaimed and well-received on worldwide platforms that speak to audience from global enterprising companies, top-performing schools, brand nonprofits, and professional sports teams. So a formal welcome to Dr. Jen. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's great to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
I got to ask real quick, though, how do you obtain a PhD and a master's while still playing football? Like, how is that possible?
Being a female athlete is a full-time hustle. For me, the story of playing football was work by day, play football by night, and go to school by very late night. We weren't in a position where playing football could be our whole lives, nor was there a pathway to say where we could be. So what I decided is that if I took my real life practical experience, being one of the best in the world, and merged that with the study, right? The theoretical background, then I could be a unique value proposition to the sport of football. Basically theory and practice, which a lot of the times you don't see in the same person. You have somebody who had been there, but not, done that kind of thing. And so I wanted to be the one who had been there, done that, and literally wrote the book about it.
And then was there a quote? I think I found it. It said, I don't wear glass slippers, I shatter them. So kind of that shattering the glass ceiling mold of, hey, if it hasn't been done, it's not because you can't do it. And you kind of stepped forward and just did it, right?
Well, that's it's a funny quote. I was doing I was going out, and I think it was in Vegas. It was a huge leadership conference, and I was going to step on the stage in front of thousands of people. And I had the perfectly picked out outfit, and it had these just pumps. And I just looked at them and I didn't want to wear them. I did not want to wear those shoes that day. And meanwhile, on the other side, I had these high top Chucks that were silver that I had found at a consignment store. They were like the dopest shoes in the world. And I just wanted to wear those. And it was just so improper for like what most people look at when they talk about the speaking circuit and motivational speaking and all that. And I just remember thinking like, it's all about the shoes, right? Like, and what shoes we wear and how we're going to show up. And so I wrote like, I don't, glass ceilings, glass sidelines, like let's shatter them. So I want to shatter the glass slipper mentality. Right. And so that's what prompted those shoes. And then that quote. And funny enough, the thing that I heard the most compliments about were those Chucks and how they tied into the message. And so I think it's really important to look at the status quo and say, is that there because it's always been there, or that's the way it should be? And for me on that day, and in so many ways, I just look at the world as it should be, and then do my best to show up as the true person that I am and let the cards fall where they may. And, some people are uncomfortable with that, but, it tends to mean that I get to show up on sneakers and do work where other people might be stuck on the sidelines because of the shoes they chose to wear that day.
And I think that's similar to like entrepreneurs too, people who work for a company, but it's almost the same courage you need if you want to do something for yourself. It's, it's almost that kind of same mindset, right? Like, I grew up, my parents said, get a 9 to 5, but sometimes maybe you have to just break the mold. But
most people are speaking through, and this really is important to entrepreneurs. And I want to speak to all of your heart, right? If people saw what you saw, they would probably already be doing what you're doing. Okay. And so a lot of the times the feedback we get is you can't do that, or that won't work. Well, if they saw what you saw, they would be doing what you were doing. See, they can judge a lot of things, but what they can't see in their evaluation of the situation is your heart. They can't see the hours that you'll put in. They can't see the passion that you'll bring to the table. They can't see that you are maybe only a fraction of yourself working your 9 to 5, where you would be infused with vision, passion, and excitement on your entrepreneurial journey. And now a lot of them, when they speak something isn't possible, remember it this way. Everybody has had disappointment. Nobody was born thinking what they can't do. Look at kids. Kids are such a refreshing, beautiful, wonderful, wildly creative, like, a sword can be a stick and a pot can be, a helmet, right? Like, they're so creative, and somewhere along the way, the world showed them what they shouldn't do or what they couldn't do, or taught them lessons that shrunk them down. And so when most people are telling you what's not possible, they're not doing it to hurt you. Remember that they're doing it and speaking to you from the scar tissue of their heart, from the pain of their own loss or what they couldn't do. And they think that they're protecting you from that pain. And unfortunately, what people think of as a safety net is often just a net that's keeping you from going to your greatest heights or being able to fly, right? A net is still a net, whether you consider it one that's safety underneath you or over top of your wings. So you have to have the courage to protect your dreams and your big vision, and to have a tight inner circle of people that you will bring in early in a dream when it's still fragile, right? And a friend of mine taught me one of the most important lessons on that is the first person that you tell a newborn baby of an idea that idea is going to be the most impactful. And for those of you who are listening, there's really only one right answer. And it's tell me more about that. It doesn't mean that you've made judgment yet, because you haven't. They haven't. But can you be expansive in your approach to their idea? Can you help them develop tentacles? Can you help them make roots? Can you help them problem solve? They don't yet know if it's the end all be all idea, but they need an exploring partner. They need that friend that you could say, let's do battle. And they would pick up a stick with you and have a great time and expand that thought process. And so you want to be that person who helps your friends expand, helps them problem solve. And you need those people near you who will also be expansive in their thinking. It doesn't mean yes men, and that's not what I'm saying, but people who say, okay, well, have you thought about this? Or what would you do in this case? Or have you looked at this case study? So that you start to be able to suss out the idea. And remember, we all have dream killers in our life. And they don't necessarily know that they do it. And unfortunately, sometimes they are some of the closest people to us. And what that means is that you cannot bring them into your first level of conversation. You tell them about that idea after it's successful. That person who's like, nah, that can't work, or blah, 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 always has the like, wah, 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 right? Like at the end of every statement,
right?
They don't get to know about it. Right. But it's not even haters. Like they just, they breathe negativity into, like, it's like they open their mouth and it's like the Death Valley, like garlic breath, right? It's like, and you watch all things shrivel away. Like that person doesn't get to hear about it, even if they're in your family, especially if they're in your family, until the idea is so rock solid that they can't do anything. Well, that won't work. Well, it already did.
Right.
Like, and that way you fortify yourself and you fortify that fledgling baby bird of an idea from negativity as well.
So today's topic is going to be the psychology of winning, cultivating a championship mindset. But before we go there, a couple episodes ago, we had Bob Berg as our guest. So Joe, Dr. Jen, you mentioned something about value, but Joe, what was a takeaway you had when Bob Berg was with us?
Absolutely. For me, it's just always providing more value than what is expected of you. So always, to me, it's always about give. What can I do for it? In a marketing role, what can I do for that business that goes above and beyond what they would even think is possible for them?
Right. And then cue image 2. Then our last episode we had was our Mick Rodier, our founder of Valor Marketing, on SEO tips. And just to replay our last episode, claim all your local listings. And if you do a video, make sure it's on YouTube. Since Google owns YouTube, there's a huge benefit to that. Real quick, before we get started, one more thing. Our Valor Cares initiative. So Joe, quickly go over our Valor Cares initiative before we get started with everything else.
Absolutely. So during COVID, we wanted a way to give back, provide value to businesses. And so what a better way for us to do that was to give away free website builds. Excuse me. So every single month, people nominate themselves or other businesses, and we give away free website builds to small business owners.
Awesome. So now we come to our A Advanced Septic Pump You Up quote of the day. And I'll read it from Condoleezza Rice. I think it's fitting. People who end up first don't actually set out to be first. They set out to do something they love. And as you heard Dr. Jen, she was so passionate and then juggling all these things, but she kind of trailblazed her own path. So let's get into it. It's kind of our CR Gutters Did You Know segment, which will go into the psychology of winning, cultivating a championship mindset. So just a quick thought. I know I'm kind of going off our outline, but with the Olympics going on right now, the Simone Biles incident, mental health, there's a part of it here, mental characteristics needed for a championship mindset. And then previously, Naomi Osaka, citing mental health. Is there a thought you have since, with your experience being an athlete, being an academic, on how relevant this is? So, I mean, we'll have entrepreneurs, but we'll have probably other athletes, young girls that kind of see that. What's your quick thought on that?
Well, it's definitely not a quick thought, but I'll do my best. First of all, when I talk about sports psychology, I talk about it as the psychology of winning. And oftentimes, athletes, just like entrepreneurs, are on an island. You have to be all things to all people at all times. And you're not allowed to not have all of the answers, even though you have many questions. And so athletes are bred never to admit fear, never to admit weakness. We have to be stoic. We have to be competitors. If anybody sees 1 ounce of weakness, they will take it and flip the script on us and use it to their advantage and use it against us. Hey, entrepreneurs, how many of you does that sound like? So when we look at this, what's really hard is it is very lonely at the top. And now imagine, as an entrepreneur, your journey often is your own journey. It's not in front of millions and millions of people. It's not with the weight of representing, what it looks like to be a woman of color in a sport that hasn't traditionally embraced you. It's not having been the goat of goat and the most decorated to have done X, or the one who dethroned Serena Williams, or any of those things. And so you are doing all of the pressure with the pressure of the spotlights on you at all times. And it really feels like you can't have a misstep, or you can't have a ball bounce the wrong way. And so it is very pressured filled. And in the year, especially of COVID, people are more isolated than ever. The gymnastics can't have, or the gymnasts can't have their families in the Olympic Village. And a lot of the times their family and friends are the ones that humanize them, are the ones who don't need you to be the, baddest woman on the planet. They actually just know you when you were like a kid, right? Like my sister calls me Jenny. Very few people call me Jenny, but she can do it because that's my big sister. And my big sister can look through my soul and say, Jenny, are you okay? And I know that there's nothing else behind it. And I can say, oh my gosh, sis, I have the weight of the world on my shoulders. Right now, you don't necessarily have that. And it's conditioned in us as a competitive culture that we must be all things to all people all the time, going on 100% motivation, and never, actually embrace recovery or, diffusing that tension. I know entrepreneurs. I am an entrepreneur. So like I tell people I work all the time. Thankfully, I'm choosing the work that I do. So that pressure is very real. I think Naomi's case was a little bit different than Simone's. Naomi's appeared to be a little bit more ongoing, and something that in her storytelling, and of course, I'm not in the position where I can really like give the same opinion that I would if I was there with them and able to talk to them. But just from what Naomi said, she sensed that she was not herself. That's why she went to withdraw from doing interviews, because she knew the speculation that would be there off everything that she said, and was maybe afraid that she would misstep. Then what she thought might relieve some of that pressure actually escalated it, because now she was under a spotlight for not being in the spotlight, right? And then it became an extended conversation. And so she tried to step back a little, probably to help protect herself, and it backfired, which is why, she pushed back stronger. And I'm happy that she was honest about the conversation, because what was very scary in that situation is actually an act of bravery, because she didn't say that strength was never admitting weakness. She actually admitting weakness to empower others, to say that it was okay to not have to be perfect all the time. Right. So I don't think in terms of the Olympics that she was really back whole yet, and maybe didn't know the way to express it. For Simone Biles, it appeared as if it was more an acute situational pressure. Even when she was saying, I was reading on it earlier, talking about losing her, her basically, I I don't want to say her way, but like being disoriented in the air and having to cut that vault short after having another performance that wasn't on hers in her situation. Whereas Naomi could lose with a bad performance, Simone Biles could be seriously injured or incapacitated through being slightly off. And to have someone who has had moves named about you, like obviously I had somebody say, well, she couldn't handle the pressure. Actually, that's not correct. She's handled the pressure her entire existence. What she said is something is off. And I don't know how to put a word to it, because at first she said it was physical and then she said it was mental. So really what it said to me is that my mental was so far off in this acute situation that I thought it could lead to physical incapacitation. And so we have to realize that all of these things in the spectrum of mental health need our understanding and conversation as opposed to condemnation, because we'll never know the whole story and we'll never know what would have happened if Simone Biles had tried to push herself through that competition. What if she became seriously injured and somebody said, well, why did you do it? Well, I felt like I had to because of my team, right? Either way, it could have gone badly for her. And so realizing that her team was able to win a silver medal without her could have quite possibly been the most therapy that she could receive as that gymnast who does feel like she carries the weight of the world on her shoulder and her shoulders. And it's very true that she does. It is hard to be that person all the time. I can tell you, as having been the one of one, it is very tiring. And it is important to be able to say when you need a day off, and to build in things for your recovery as much as you do for your performance, because you are only as good as you can be in the moment. And that is something that for all of you, I would encourage you. Motivation is not a constant. Some days you will leap tall buildings in a single bound. Some days you will feel like you can run a marathon. Other days, the very best that you have is shuffling in slippers, right? But that shuffle day may be exactly the day that you need to fortify yourself, to reinvigorate yourself, to look at the problem in a slightly day so that come Monday, you can again leap a tall building in a single bound. But it is not constant. And if you think it is, you're on a road to burnout. You have to actually account for yourself in the equation that you put your business in.
Right.
Because you are your best asset, especially as an entrepreneur.
So you kind of touched it, but mental characteristics needed for a champion's mindset. So for entrepreneurs listening out there, what's one nugget you could give them? I mean, it sounds like resiliency is one, but sometimes there's something else that, I mean, entrepreneurs, we do this because it's not easy. I mean, it's just something we love to do, right? Like Joe and I's passion are helping small businesses. But for everyone out there, what's one thing they could work on for a characteristic that'll help them to build this champion's mindset? So from just a participant, now you want to excel. What's that one thing you give our audience?
Well, one of them, you just said it, is passion, right? Because passion, if it's your passion, it doesn't feel like work the same way, right? The curiosity breeds excitement and intrigue as opposed to a barrier and a roadblock, right? It becomes a part of your framing. Embracing failure is part of it. None of us is perfect. When you're doing something different, you will fall flat on your face at times. I say football was really good for that because it was not a question of if you'd hit the ground. It was how hard, how often,
Right.
and how do you get back up, right? It is a fundamental part of the game, right? You are going to hit the ground, but was it on your terms or someone else's? And how did you get back up in the process? So just realizing that you're learning every time you go through stuff, right? Like you don't know how to get through it until you get to it and you get hit by it. So kind of embrace that, then surround yourself with other people who will invigorate your mindset, not the you can't, but the how can you, or what is it next, or, you know, can I lock arms with you, or girl, you need a day off. Let's go. You're working too hard. Let's go get a pedicure, right? You need people in your corner, even if parts of the journey feels solo, you're not in this world alone. So you need to
Right.
fortify yourself with others that are around you. Like I tell people all the time, and unfortunately passed away recently, but like my Chihuahua was my ultimate sidekick. You know why? Because the world was fickle, right? Like some people love the fact that I was the first this or the first that. Other people hated it, right? Because I was disrupting their, America's game and a man's game and all this stuff. So I was loved and hated, and none of that was under my control. But you know
Right.
what? That Chihuahua of mine always had those big eyes and his tongue stuck to the side. And like I could be mad or frustrated, and I would just look at his face and I'd be like, oh, right. Like, that's a human element that's not contingent on your performance in work. And we need those. And we need to have areas of ourselves where we're fortified. Now, a champion's mindset, when we talk about like mental toughness, most people have this very wrong. Like that mentally tough people don't experience ups and downs, that they don't feel things, that it doesn't bother them, that they don't get excited. That's not the case at all. What we talk about with mental toughness is the ability to get into the zone and to focus on what's within our control. We cannot control a lot of things, but how long do we let the fact that something sucks control us? Mentally tough people get back to it quicker. A non-mentally tough person is still like 3 plays behind, wondering why the ref had to throw that penalty. Well, guess what? They did throw it. You can't control it. You can be upset by it, but you have another play to play. So if you give up 3 plays, then you've given up a strategic advantage as opposed to 1 and get back and come back swinging, right? So how long does it take you to get back into present, to focus on what is in your control and to do the damn thing? Don't feel like you have to be flawless. No one's flawless. You are not a robot. Perfection is boring. It's only Photoshop in a magazine. It doesn't exist in real life. Even if my hair was freaking flawless, the second I go out into the wind, it's going to be in my face, in my lipstick, hot mess. Okay. And am I going to cry that my hair is bad? No, I'm going to get out a brush and do the best that I can, brush it aside and keep on moving. Those are the things that we have to think about. Mistakes are going to happen. You're going to hit the ground. Things are not a Photoshop edition of life. Get off the social media and comparison wagon and feeling that you are doing everything else for the approval of others, because you can put up a perfect post and nobody will see it. It doesn't mean it wasn't a perfect post. It means your timing was off. So how do you get your algorithms better? All of these things are a learning process of life, but you cannot let your validity or your competitive fire or your view of yourself be contingent on things that are not in your control. Use them as lessons and then get back to doing what you've learned, what works, and putting your head down, and surround yourself with people who are better than you. Football, we do this really well. Okay. I laugh when I have like quarterbacks on my team, right? When I was the head coach of the Australian women's national team, I gravitated towards defense. You know why? Because I'm great on defense. Duh. I was one of the best in the world. I could tackle anybody. And one day my girls on offense said, Coach, we need more of you on offense too. It's not fair that defense gets you all the time. And I looked at her and I said, well, I mean, I don't necessarily know how to tell you to be better at that, except to tell you how to beat me.
Right.
Duh, I can tell you how to beat me. That's pretty freaking great information, right? Like, hey, when I do this, this is what I'm looking at. Or by the way, quarterbacks, I can't tell you how to throw the ball better. I'm not a quarterback, but I can tell you how to increase your cognitive processing on a rep that you're not on. So I can give you a better practice mechanism. But if we just shut ourselves down, like, I wouldn't have seen that. So I need people around me who are, for example, a quarterbacks coach, but I can tell them something about increasing excellence while not affecting their throwing motion because I'm not the expert there, right? So bring people in and don't be afraid of people who are better than you. You want people who are better than you. You don't need yes people unless you want to stay exactly where you are right now. Yes, you are the best thing on the face of the planet right here, status quo, baby. Do it like this every day for the rest of your life and nothing will change. You don't want to.
I got two things for you as we get close to wrapping up. So attitudes and behaviors to train your own team to achieve success. So is there one or two things quickly, you talked about a little bit, surrounding yourself with other people, but attitudes and behaviors to train your team to achieve success. What's your quick thought on that? And then I have another unscripted question I want to ask you. So
great leadership is trust and love. And it's empathetic. I used to say to my players, for example, say I know somebody can execute this play. He's done it right 99 times out of 100. And then one day he comes in and he messes up the same play 3 times. Has his physical ability to do the play changed? No. So likely the change in performance is not something physical. It's something mental. And that means his mind is probably somewhere else, which means on a human level, he's probably going through something. So instead of compounding and saying, what's wrong with you? Well, he may not know what's wrong with me, but me asking what's wrong with him in that way is certainly not going to build a bridge. It's going to separate us and actually, put those hands up and, literally that's a protection mechanism. Like, whoa, right? I'm feeling attacked. He's already feeling down about something. But if instead I just said to him, and this was always my approach, like, hey, are you okay? Coach, how did you know? Because I pay attention, because I care about you as a human. Your humanity impacts your performance. And guess what? If I care about you in your life and you trust me enough and I care about you enough to let me in what's going on in your life, right? And maybe I help you with that, which, hey, I do have a PhD in psychology. I'm kind of good at that, right? If you'll let me do that, then number one, I can help bring you back to present, because as long as your mind's over there, it's not here. So you're not going to be optimal. So let me help you with this to bring you back to this. And then it's also a matter of, if you trusted me enough to bring me into your life, don't you think you're going to trust me enough if I say, hey, I need you to get to heel depth and then close down before you do this, right? Oh yeah, sure. No problem. Right? Because the motivations are the same, and then I only want the best from you. So really, if I could only give one thing as a leader, it's empathy and understanding. If you can teach me how to walk a mile in your shoes, hear through your ears, see through your eyes, play a game in your cleats, I can always help you. If you can't, I'm guessing at best, I'm a pretty good guesser, but I'm going to be way better with the information that you give me. And then number 2, find a way to make everybody know and feel that they are important and they are integral to the success. It's not just about your number one, and people will contribute in different ways. I worked with a cross country team that was doing really well at the top end. And then some of the other runners, like towards the back end, there was a huge gap. And what I found is that everything was geared towards the top end. And the other girls were more multidimensional, but they felt like because they weren't the best runners, they weren't that good. Well, this is still a team sport, even though you're running an individual race. So how can you make them feel a part of the team? Well, guess what? One of the girls, her, other talent was she was a fabulous artist. So guess what we did? She came up with the new t-shirts and she drew like the logo doing something. I forget what it was. But then we incorporated that, which was her special sauce and where she was best in the world, in the t-shirts for the team. Guess what? It brought everybody closer together and made her feel closer to the team. And her times started increasing simply because, she was better integrated into the part of the team. So people have lots of ways that they can contribute, and it's not always just on the bottom line, but when people feel a better part of the team, your bottom line will do better, point blank.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So I got two questions. We're going to go Dr. Jen Unplugged right now. So off the outline. So since you're a football person, right? So we're obviously out of Seattle. Joe and I are Seahawks fans. Tell me in the current season right now, or upcoming season, since when we're filming this, training camp starting tomorrow officially, but who's the best linebacker in the NFL?
I won't give a best linebacker in the NFL because first of all, the position's too diverse. Are you talking 3-4? Are you talking 4-3? Are you talking inside? Are you talking outside? Nope.
Let's go 4-3.
Nope. Can't do it. Won't do it. Too close. Right? Like that's too close. I don't pick favorites. I've coached and know too many people in the league. But what I will do is go to your Seattle Seahawks and say it is insulting as a D-line coach to have a safety lead your team in sacks. Where is your pass rush? That's what I want. I want a pass rush from the Seattle Seahawks. I love Jamal Adams. He's a beast, no doubt. But if you want the Legion of Boom to get back to the Legion of Boom, we need some boom from that defensive line. We need some pressure on opposing quarterbacks, because if you want to let Russ cook, guess what? He shouldn't always cook from the position of like, if I don't score 1 million points, I'm not going to win this game. So get the man some D-line.
Amen to that. All right. And I'll try to get it out of you, but Super Bowl prediction. Can we get a prediction out of you of the team? I won't give you a prediction, but tell me the two teams you think will play in the Super Bowl for this upcoming Super Bowl year.
Too early to tell and too different out of COVID. If you're really smart and we're paying attention, I'll give you a few quick takes to take into account. San Francisco was abysmal last year. They will not be abysmal this year. They have overcome all of the injuries and hopefully they will not be homeless for a month. So look for the 49ers to be back to 2 years ago. Patrick Mahomes will be better protected for the fortification of the offensive line. They will not make that mistake again, so you will not be able to beat them with pass rush, and they are still devastating in terms of their speed. The Cleveland Browns, downtown Cleveland Browns, have built a monster over there. Their two-headed monster in the backfield is running behind, I would argue, the best offensive line in the league, which kept Baker, the commercial maker, so safe that he looked like he was a princess in the tower. And oh, by the way, he has OBJ back, but will not be dependent on OBJ, which will really open up that offense. So they are going to be dangerous. If Clowney is not clowning on them and you added him to that defensive line, they're going to be a tough team to beat. Tampa Bay cannot be kept at bay. They brought back all of their starters who won last season. They are going to be a monster, and it does not appear that they are going to go into the Super Bowl slump. So they are also a problem. Green Bay, you saw The Last Dance. Okay. And I couldn't have made this call until today, but you saw one of the best receivers in the league and your reigning Super Bowl MVP put up Michael Jordan pictures saying this is the last dance. For it to be the last dance, fellas, you gotta win the big show. They appear to be pissed off enough so that Aaron Rodgers took a page out of Tom Brady's playbook and is restructuring his contract to free up some cap space. So watch for Green Bay to make some moves to put that team in an all-in to win position. And last but certainly not least, the Bills will still be consistent, but don't take your eyes off the evil genius that is Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. Dollar Bill, you can call him in this offseason. He's been spending money, honey, and he is not happy. Not to mention you have all of the emotions of Cam Newton channeled into it's an all-in to win season. And oh, by the way, not only did they spend wildly in free agency for the first time, I don't know, ever in Patriots land, but they had the most players who were took the year off because of COVID, and they will almost all be returning. That means the Patriots will return to being contenders. Watch out for the evil genius that is Bill Belichick.
And there goes passion right there. Dr. Jen, thanks for joining us today on our Ask Valor Masterminds podcast. We'd love to schedule a time for you to come back again. But thanks. Real quickly, before we head out, Joe, just a last quick 30 seconds on our Valor Cares initiative, just to remind our listeners and viewers, please.
Yep. If you own a business and you don't have a website, or your best friend's brother's cousin built your website, or you just need something better to represent your business online, we'd love for you to apply to our Valor Cares website giveaway. It's on our website, askvalormasterminds.com. Check out the page for Valor Cares.
Awesome. So on behalf of our sponsors, A Advanced Septic Services and CR Gutters, my name's Galen.
I'm Joe.
Coming at you virtually from the BD Local Studios in Tacoma, Washington. Thanks for watching, and thanks again, Dr. Jen. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jen.
You got it.